Are you afraid of applique? I used to be too. But with a couple of tools, even you could produce some really sweet applique. So let's turn your applique tragic into applique magic. The first step in achieving a beautiful applique is to turn under the edges of your fabric. I like to use just cardstock because you can iron it and it doesn't melt. I will put the cardstock down and put my edge over the cardstock and give it a press. And do the same on the other side. I'll do that around all the edges. If I come to a point, I'm going to use the fray check to make sure that I have no little pieces of thread from the fabric hanging out of the point. So after my sides are all pressed down nicely, you see that I have this point hanging over, and we don't want that there. I don't want to bend it in and try to sew it under because it'll be too lumpy. So what I'm going to do is snip it off and then use a little fray check so that corner doesn't ravel and fray on me. I put a little daub of it on the corner of this cardboard piece, and after I've snipped my little corner, all I'm going to do is dab it in to that so that it gets on the back of my fabric, and when it dries it's going to stop it from ever fraying. So it doesn't take long, just a couple minutes. Once I've got all my edges turned under and they have a preliminary press, I like to give it a shot of that best press, which is a starch, and iron it again, and it holds them nice in place. See how nice and crisp those are? They're easy to work with. They won't open up again. Very nice. The next product I like to use is a peel and stick. It's actually a paper interfacing with a backing that's shiny that you can peel off. And I can draw on it, I can make any shape I like, and then I put it onto my fabric, and then I cut the fabric out just 1/8 of an inch bigger than the piece I cut. It's called Perfect Circles by Karen K. Buckley. It comes with several circles in it, all different sizes. So I can take this perfect circle and I can place it on my peel and stick on the paper side, and I can trace it around it with a pencil. Or you can buy it already done in little tiny sheets, and this is from quiltworks.com. and Judy Niemeyer. They cut them out for their patterns, and then you have perfect circles already cut for you. So all I do is take the circle, I peel off the waxy paper stuff, and I place my circle onto the fabric, and I make sure I have about 1/4 of an inch, or not even 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And the next step is just to cut out around them. Now the circle I used to make that template on the paper stabilizer makes a great pressing piece. But in order to get it to curve around that perfectly, I have to hand baste around the outside edge. I like to start on the side, the front side of it, so that my knot is on the outside edge. And then I just take some pretty good sized stitches using contrasting thread so you can see what I'm doing. And I try to do it near the edge and not near the paper, so that when I go to cinch it up, it'll have enough to pull over to the inside. And I want to make sure that I end up not on the inside where you can see the paper, but on the outside. I take my circle, my plastic circle, and I put it in there, and I pull. And voila! Look at that. And the greatest thing about these perfect circles is that you can iron on them. And the same thing, I use a little squirt of that Best Press. And then I take the circle out, give another little pull on that thread, one more quick little press, and that's it. This thread can be removed now. Perfect circle. The other way to do this is to take your glue pen and put a little dab of glue all the way around that paper. And then fold over your edge as you go. And this is great if you're going to do some machine applique and sew your applique to your piece by machine, but if you're going to do hand stitching, you might find the glue, as it hardens in there, makes it difficult to get your needle into the fold. So there's another way to do it. I prefer to do it with those little perfect circles and with hand basting than to use all that glue. So it's really up to you which method you prefer to do. So I'm going to prepare another one of these, and I'm going to prepare this little one, and then I'll show you how it all goes together. After you're done pressing them all and you've taken the plastic piece out, or if you used a cardboard circle and you've taken the cardboard circle out, you can just snip off that thread and leave it in there, as I did here, or you can pull the thread out. It doesn't really matter. So you have all your pieces, and now it's time to put them on your base fabric. So I like to start from the bottom and layer my way up. So in this case, I'm going to start with my stem. And then my leaves go on. When I get them where I'd like them to be, I'm gonna tack them down. Instead of using pins, I'm going to tack them down with Glue-Baste-It, which holds them nicely in place, and I think that's where I want it to be. So let me start with the stem. Glue-Baste-It is a great product by Roxanne. And it comes with these little applicator tips so that you can regulate the amount of glue. You can put just the tiniest little bit of glue down. So I'm just going to peel up my stem, put a couple daubs of glue, little tiny bits of glue on the end there, and press it into place. It doesn't take too long for that to dry. I'll do the same down this end. Just a couple little dabs of glue. You don't want to use too much if you're going to be sewing your applique pieces on by hand, because you don't want the glue to stop you from being able to get your needle in there. So I just put a couple little dots. That's all I need. If I'm going to do some machine applique on here, I want to, at this point, go to the machine and applique this down. And then I can cover the end with this last leaf, and then I would applique that down. So I'm going to show you how to do some machine applique. So I want to start my applique right underneath where my next petal is going to go, so you don't see the beginning or the end. And I've picked a blanket stitch, which goes over once onto the applique and takes a stitch next to it. And I've set it so that it's only a 2 millimeter length of a stitch, and it's only 1 millimeter wide. And when I get to the corner, I'd like to get my needle in there and pivot. It's hard to see with that foot on there, but I'm right on the corner and I can pivot. So I'm stitching down, my straight stitches go next to the fold, and then it takes one stitch over onto the piece, and then next to the fold and onto the piece. And if you're going to tack it, just 1 or 2 little stitches. That's all you need before you break thread. Now it's time to put down the other one. And get it where I want it. I make sure that I have at least 1/4 of an inch along the edge here so that I can sew it onto my next block in the quilt or whatever I'm going to put it on. Maybe I want to put it on a frame, corner of a frame. It's great corner applique. And again, I'm going to start down on the end. Now I didn't use any Glue-Baste-It for this, so it could move a lot. So I'm going to hold it down nicely while I do this. So there it is, the stems are all in place, and now I'm going to put on the flower units, and I'm going to show you how to do some hand applique. So when you're going to put down the petals, you're going to arrange them the way you want them to be. Pretty close to where you want them to be. And when you decide where you'd like to have them, I'm going to glue-baste it again. You could use pins if you wanted to, but I prefer to glue-baste. And I don't want to glue-baste too close to the edge because I'm going to try to get my needle into that fold. But I do want to hold these pieces down. So I'm just going to glue-baste around the edge a little bit away from the fold. Because I'm doing the hand stitching, I can glue it all ahead of time and then go back and just stitch the exposed seams. Now you might want to use a matching thread, but I'm going to actually use this darker thread to show you that if you do your blind stitches correctly, you don't see them at all. When I've done applique in the past and I haven't worn a thimble, I end up with a callus on the corner of my finger here. And a lot of times as I'm trying to push the needle through, it might actually pop right through my skin and I bleed. And that's not good on your applique. So I've tried many different thimbles and haven't been really happy with any one of them. And then this one was given to me by a dear friend. And I love it. It's the best thimble ever. It's by Clover and it's leather and it's awesome. So I start on the back and I put my needle in with a knot at the end of the thread. I come in right at this joint here where these two meet. And what I want to do is go into the fold and out of the fold again. Take a stitch. Now I want to go into the background fabric right where I came out of the fold and take another stitch back out of the background fabric. Now I want to go back into the fold exactly where I came out of the background fabric and take another nice size stitch. I don't have to take tiny, tiny little stitches. I can take a good size stitch. And this is where the thimble comes in. If you're stuck in that fold and you need to push, it helps you push it through. And now I go back into the background and I continue this way all the way around all the exposed folded edges of these pieces. And you can see it's pretty much a blind stitch. You can't see it at all. And I'll continue on the lavender petal, the big one, all the way around. And then I'll do the last petal, and then I'll save the top piece for the very end. So you can see that my dark stitches, they don't show at all. And you can also see how I took really big stitches. So it's pretty quick. And it's a very clean and neat look. So here it is, it's all sewn down, and you can see that I was able to use nice big stitches. So if you are the kind of person who doesn't want to take a long time doing a gazillion stitches around your applique by hand, and you're afraid to do it by machine, or you don't have a machine that has a nice applique stitch or zigzag stitch, then try sewing it on with blind stitching and start to enjoy your applique.